I'm happy to have CAMOC here because, because first of all, we are recently trying to reconsider the whole cultural equipment of the city of Athens, because there are a lot, some totally obsolete, some they need a new profile, and it is an extremely challenging work for myself and all the people who were working together in the town hall and in the different commissions and directions. I want really to tell you that where you are, it is a very important part of the city, and very important part for the questions we are going to discuss in a way. It is the part that was built immediately after it was announced Athens will be the capital, before even having the plans. So that means the first idea was that the Royal Palace will be nearby. So these places, a lot of Greek rich people from Vienna, from etc., they sent architects to run and build nice houses. And then suddenly the Royal Palace moved on the other side of the city, and this part started to change and change and change. To say the truth, exactly this building, which was a factory, a silk factory, and a quite important silk factory, is made by Hansen, the older brother, the Viennese, Danish-Viennese architect, Christian Hansen, and who built also major buildings in the city of Athens, also in Vienna, also in Munich, also in Copenhagen. And on the other side, with the years, people came because of the industrialization, and rich people came back, and it became a kind of bourgeois area. And on the other side, they left because of the civil war. This was really the headquarters of the communist army during the civil war for a while, etc., until it was finally burned and restored, and the family donated the whole complex to the city of Athens, and the city has restored the building, and now it's the Pinakothek of Athens. Second thing is that the Pinakothek of Athens, I'm sorry to be a little long, but it's important to know these issues. The Pinakothek of Athens was created in 1914. We call it Pinakothek because I believe it was a kind of, at that time, way to call places they show mostly paintings. But on the other side, also because sculpture was considered as a public thing in the city, so nobody used to put sculpture in a museum. It was in the parks and in the squares. But also for another reason, because Venizelos, who really created the city Pinakothek, who was, let's say, say simply, the very close friend of Clemenceau, radical socialist who became a kind of moderate socialist and at the end a moderate centrist politician, but extremely attached to culture. After discussing with Clemenceau, he decided in 1914 to change the status of labor in Greece. And in that sense, he created also the status of independent or self-employed or independent worker. That means suddenly artists and intellectuals could be self-employed legally, because until then they were employed by the academy or the client who was somehow. So you couldn't do what you wanted. So the collection we have, it was made to support the people are independent intellectuals and artists, and also people free to paint or to do what they wanted. Third very important thing is that the national Pinakothek we still have, and is a beautiful equipment, but it is now closed for work because they are remaking the building. there was a law, because the people they have paid for, you couldn't exhibit works if the artist wouldn't be dead for 30 years. So for Greece, it was important that the collection of the Pinakothek, which was not a building, it was a collection, the city collection, was supporting artist associations. They were independent artists, to go and buy in exhibitions living art. So it is, in a way, the first museum somehow of modern art we have in Greece. And also the Greek secession, in a way, because most of the artists, they did the whole organization, were members of the Vienna secession or the Munich secession or the Salon des Indépendants in Paris, etc. In that sense, it was quite important because Greece was a place, especially all over the 20th century, where immigrants and refugees came from all over the world, already with the Russian Revolution, which was at that time, even before the Russian Revolution, while in 1914, when they create the collection, the troubles, if we go with the Germans or we go with the French, all the questions of the Macedonia issue, etc., of that time. So the city Pinakothek was able to support living artists. Many of them, if not most of them, came as, in a way, as refugees or as immigrants. So in that sense, I mean, immigrants are not necessarily people, they are in the middle of the streets with homeless, and they can be also having a house, etc., but being excluded of the society or considered like that, or these people coming from Asia Minor or coming from Italy, or they're not Greek or coming from the north. In that sense, it's quite interesting to see that the whole collection we have is showing everyday life people, and we have very little representation of power, of identity issues, because the identity is the identity of the individual and of the freedom of the individual to find his or her position in the city. So you are very welcome for all these reasons to be here and to discuss all these issues, because, I mean, since 1914 to now, a lot of things have changed. We have a lot of other programs relating to all the social questions, etc. But nevertheless, as responsible for the museum part, I wouldn't like to leave the museums, at least of the city, to work like airports for rich people, or like duty-frees where you find all the expensive stuff and all the perfumes, but you don't find signs of everyday life of people in the city. So very welcome, and thank you to be here.